Hello and welcome to Trying Times. If you're new here, then hi. We're basically best friends now, and that's just a fact, so take it as it is. Not forceful at all. And if you're returning, then welcome back. Surprise, I have yet another guest on this episode. I know, 2 episodes in a row with guests. Pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm so excited to share this conversation today with Victoria Robinson, and you'll be hearing that all very, very soon. But before I get into that conversation, I just want to let you guys know that there's a fun feature where you can be involved in the show. Yep, you could be involved. So you can leave me a voice message if you want to be featured in an episode, and we could talk about pretty much anything. You could mention something from past episodes, or even from this episode, or ask me a question, or talk about something that maybe you want to hear about. I don't know, we could talk about literally anything. I'd love to chat. So if you want to do that, I can feature that message in an upcoming episode if you're comfortable with that, of course. So just feel free to leave me a note in there just being like, I'm cool with you putting this in the episode, and I'll put it in the episode. So that's pretty much it. Spiel is over. So if you want to do that, go ahead and click on the link in the episode description below and hit record. And I hope to hear from you soon. But in the meantime, let's get into this great conversation. Welcome to Trying Times. Today we have a special guest with us whose name is Victoria Robinson. Hey Victoria, how's it going?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Victoria is someone that I have known for a very long time now. Like, we are going on almost 15 years.
Yeah, I would say that.
Which is crazy.
All through high school and
And still going strong.
Still going.
But yeah, so we met in high school. The story is a little funny. I think we probably met in a few different ways. But the way that I remember us meeting was more so in science class.
Yeah.
Science was not my strong suit.
Mine either.
And yeah, no, we already had such a good thing in common right there. We did not have science in common. But so Victoria was sat in front of me. From what I remember, we had like a whole seating plan. Yeah. We couldn't choose where we got to sit. We just sat where we were told. And it was as grim as it sounds. So I was behind Victoria, and Victoria and I have a significant height difference.
We do. Yeah.
I'm quite short.
Very tall.
Victoria is blessed with height, and I'm quite short. So that's how I like to look at it. But yeah, so I used to kind of duck down and hide behind Victoria sometimes if I was nervous that I was going to get picked on for an answer, because that was something that happened a lot in that class.
Yes, it always happened to me.
And I feel like I was to blame. I probably drew more attention to you from slipping down. But yeah, that's how I remember us meeting.
Yeah, I think that is how we met.
And I wouldn't change it. Like,
no,
great.
It was great. As much as I didn't like that class and getting picked on, it was good to meet you.
It was good otherwise. We got a lifelong friendship out of the experience. But so basically, I wanted to have Victoria on today because she, aside from being a great friend, is a very talented person, human being, whatever else you want to say. But she is a very talented photographer. So I wanted to have her on today to talk about her art and to talk about her work, some of her inspirations and that sort of thing. And yeah, I'm just so happy that you're here.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, of course. So right off the bat, I mean, you've had so many inspirations throughout the course of like our friendship, at least from what I know, but throughout the course of your life for so many different things. And you've been into so many different forms of art throughout our relationship. From what I've known, we've always connected over something like fashion. We've always connected over movies, and we've always connected over, well, books in some way.
Yeah.
Recently
books a lot.
I've talked a lot about on this show how I've been really into reading lately, and a lot of it is on rom-coms, and I keep blaming it on one friend. Well, now you're meeting the friend. Blaming it on.
It's me.
It's Victoria. So going off of that, I want to ask you, what inspired you the most to get into photography?
Yeah, so I had graduated high school, I loved creative fields, but I decided to take a different route. I went into more so like law, criminology to be specific. That's what I saw myself doing at that time. And then I had started the program, and I instantly knew it was not going to be for me. My anxiety was at an all-time high.
Man.
I was not doing well at that time. But I decided to, leave that program, as much as it was like hard to do, because I didn't want to disappoint myself and like my family and friends. Thankfully, I have like a lot of supportive family that helped me through that time. But I decided to leave that program, and I took some time to myself to figure things out, which was amazing. And I applied to a bunch of creative programs at Sheridan, photography being one of them. So I was really looking to get back to that creativity that I had been missing. I had kind of been like a depressing like mindset, and like also learning like criminal things is not really the most positive. So yeah, I applied to Sheridan. I was accepted to all of the programs that I applied to. And I decided on photography because I thought I could see myself doing that. It got me back into the creativity aspects of what I was missing. And then the moment I started at Sheridan, I loved it. I fell in love with photography. I loved everything about it. The people were amazing there. The profs were so welcoming. And
That's so cool.
yeah.
So in a way, it was like a total 180 for you then from your initial experience with like post-secondary.
Yeah, completely.
That's so cool. So
Yeah.
I mean, I remember like obviously us talking about it a little bit more in real time, or more so just after you'd kind of made that switch in schooling and in programs. What did that feel like for you to kind of switch from something that in a way was a little bit more, I'm trying to think of the word, maybe a little bit more like factual over kind of like subjective and creative?
Yeah, so I remember like sitting in the lectures, and you would just kind of learn about these like criminal cases that were not necessarily the most fun to learn about over and over and over again. And then you would just have to be like kind of like learn about like the laws, and it was very like on point.
To the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was not really me. Like I'm a very easygoing person, and I didn't really care for that. So I left and I went to Sheridan. Best decision I've ever made.
Shout out to Sheridan.
Yeah. I thought it wasn't going to be a good decision at the time, leaving where I was, but then it ended up being the most amazing decision. So
That's so cool. Well, I'm so happy that you, throughout a moment of kind of darkness and like obviously feeling a little stuck, maybe were able to kind of pick out something that brought you joy and also have the courage and confidence to apply to different things that were totally out of that element, which by the way, no offense to anyone that is studying law or criminology.
yeah, no offense to anyone.
That is so cool. I know when Victoria told me in high school that she was going to go on and study that, I thought that was incredible. When she decided to leave, I was like, you know what? That's great.
Yeah.
And when she took on photography, I was like, holy crap, that's cool too. Like, she's a jack of all trades here. But that is seriously so incredible. So was there like a moment for you kind of growing up, or even like maybe after high school or during high school, in any way that was like a pivotal moment for you where you're like, oh, I kind of like this. Like, this is a cool thing that I'm playing around with, like photography as a medium.
Yeah, like I think as soon as I started the program and started learning more about photography and doing the assignments, it really got it like into me like I love doing this. Like this is what I was meant to do. I enjoyed the assignments. I enjoyed exploring. I enjoyed the creativity behind it. Like I said, the people were amazing that I met, and they were really encouraging. And they were all creatives too, so I feel like I got along with them, and we kind of understood each other.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was nice to have like a little community of photo students.
Yeah.
And get to like play around with some exciting things in the studio and learn all those aspects, like learn about the cameras and the different types of cameras and the different lighting styles and product photography and like fashion. Like we did everything in architecture, portraiture. So
That's so cool. Well, yeah, you guys had like your literal own creative community, and by the sounds of it, it sounds very like supportive and uplifting. So that's so cool.
Yeah, very
awesome.
hands-on too, which I missed as well.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Well, that's amazing though. And good on you for kind of realizing that, because that's such a hard thing too, to kind of like leave one thing and then move on to something that's better for you. But by the sounds of it, you did absolutely the best thing for you. So
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
So kind of going off of that, obviously there are so many different styles of photography. There are so many different things that you could shoot, so many different like subgenres, I'm sure, that exist in that, kind of like what you were just saying with like product photography and fashion photography. Have you always been into a similar subject or style of shooting that you are now?
Yeah, so I'm into like mainly agriculture photography. I do live on a farm, grew up on a farm, so that's mainly what I do now. But when I started at Sheridan, I really wanted to get into fashion and portraiture. That's another interest of mine. But as I started going through the program, I really lended myself to documentary photography, like farming really lent into that. It just came natural to me. It's something that I loved. And yeah, I just started doing that more so. I did kind of leave my fashion work. I did do a project though where I combined both of them, and it was fashion, off-figure fashion and farming, and kind of combining that. So that was something kind of fun to kind of keep my fashion side of me a little bit. But yeah.
I just want to add to that, by the way. She's downplaying a little bit, but that project was really cool. And I was so happy that I got to be there to see that in person, like the prints of that, and how that was kind of like exhibited. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Yes. how that was exhibited, because it was such a cool combination where it was like best of both worlds. Hannah Montana over here.
Yeah.
But no, it was really, really cool. And I mean, are you able to, you kind of like feel like you are able to pull inspiration from like everyday life or home life? Like, is that something that does inspire your work or kind of give you like new ideas?
Yeah, so I think definitely my surroundings. Like, I always want to capture the beauty that is in farming. That's something that I always strive for. Like, I never want to take like a bad photo, I guess.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah, of course.
But yeah, so I try to capture the beauty of it. I think the fashion side, like how I present myself, is definitely what pushes that side. I like to try different things with my fashion. And you probably, if you've seen me, you wouldn't think I live on a farm, because I do like to...
That I remember, and I hope it's okay that I'm bringing this up. But I remember, like, around the time we became good friends, it was like a thing you told me about.
Yeah.
You're like, listen, I know I'm like fashionista over here, but there's a secret about me you don't know. And you told me, and I was just so fascinated, because it's so cool to see now how that's inspired your work, and how it's inspired obviously so many things that you work on, but your fashion sense has never really like changed in any way. Like, it's just, you've continued to experiment. And I always think that's so cool, because that's one of the coolest things like about our friendship, is that we're very comfortable in kind of like expressing ourselves through clothes. And so I feel like that's so cool that you've still like, that's something that you're still experimenting with every day. And I mean, yeah, even when you did like more so, I guess, off figure fashion or like kind of product photography in school, like that was so cool to see. And like I said, when you combine both of those things, that was like, ultimate mind-blowing moment for me. I was like, whoa. So that's so cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I love that. Well, okay, there's already so much that we've unpacked here. So thank you for sharing everything, by the way, so far. But I want to know if there's ever been a moment for you of overwhelmingness, because something I like to talk about a lot on this show, and that we'll be talking about, is imposter syndrome, and definitely feeling different levels of that. And sometimes we face that in really everyday situations, but especially in our work, because that can be so close to your heart. So I want to ask you kind of two questions.
Okay.
One, has there ever been a moment of overwhelmingness for you? And two, is there ever like a moment of imposter syndrome that you've kind of come face to face with? Not wording not the greatest, but has there ever been a moment of imposter syndrome that you've come face to face with? And how do you deal with that when you do feel that or have felt that?
Right. Yeah. So I think probably after I graduated from school is when I felt like that overwhelmingness of like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do now?
The real world.
The real world. I have to be an adult. Like,
scariest
I gotta
feeling.
find a job.
Yes. Oh my God.
And I kind of lost like that photo community, right? And so it was kind of hard for a little while to like find my footing into what I wanted to do next. And I just remember, you know, leaving Sheridan, I felt so safe there. And like everyone was so welcoming, going into like the world now of photographers where it is different and it's hard like to get yourself out there and connect with other people. So what really helped me through that though is to keep shooting, like just keep being creative, just keep pushing through, keep picking up the camera, because that's what really helped me keep promoting my work, like on my social medias, like just keep trying to connect with people and get out there as much as you can. There's still times now where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, but you know, you just keep going.
Yeah, I feel like that's just human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to trust yourself more more so, and you'll get through it.
I think that's great. That's great. Because I mean, the biggest thing is like in your instance, I'm sure, for like absolutely being sure to pick that camera up, to continue finding inspiration and acting on that moment of finding inspiration. Because I mean, honestly, for anyone working in any sort of creative career, it's so easy to feel like, oh God, like what what am I doing? Or maybe like this is something that a lot of people are also trying.
Yeah,
so where do I kind of
definitely.
stand with that? Is that something that you feel like ever kind of clicks for you? And like obviously you're able to snap out of that, but
Yeah, for sure. Like there's definitely a lot of other agriculture photographers, a lot of like farm influencers now, I would say as well, kind of trying to do that same thing too. So trying to compete with that and trying to be different than them. And I think like everyone has their own things, right? Like you're never going to be exactly like someone. So that's always what I try to remember.
absolutely.
But yeah, it is definitely hard trying to navigate through that world of everyone kind of doing similar things, but we all try to do our own thing uniquely.
There's like a whole thing I always think about where it's kind of like no matter how amazing something is, and I think this way a lot about films a lot of the time, because I'll watch something and be like, oh my God, that was so good. Or like I'll go to a concert and be like, oh my God, this person was so good. I've never seen anything like that. But everything that they're doing, whether it be in a movie or on stage, whatever it is, was always inspired from something, or that idea was always inspired by something that was inspired by something else. So in a way, it's like, it's always a trickle down effect. And,
Yeah, you're always gonna feed off of other artists. You're always gonna
Exactly.
look at their imagery and be like, oh, I love that lighting, or I love like that positioning, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's all part of it, and that's amazing.
And it's
If you
just
love
like-
someone's work, just
Yeah, just, I mean, you're pulling inspiration. Obviously, if you're not blatantly like,
Yeah.
doing the exact
Doing
same
the exact
thing.
same thing.
But no, that's exactly how I was thinking of it. Like, you're just pulling inspiration. So that's really cool. You kind of, for a second, answering that question we just talked about, we're saying to make sure you never put down the camera, to just keep trying and keep going. So that leads very well into my next question of what advice you would offer to someone looking to branch into photography.
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, I love the question. 'Cause
Thank
I think
you.
this is a really important question. I would say my biggest advice would be, yes, the creative part of it is the top priority, but I would say to focus on the business aspects of it, because that's something that I wish I knew a lot more about when I had graduated.
Yeah.
And something that I've had to learn a lot more about in the last few years. Like as far as
Okay.
quoting and invoicing and contracts and all those fun things that do come with having a business. I feel like I kind of was in the dark a bit when I left school, because we did focus a lot on the creative aspects. So yeah, just trying to be more into the business side, even though I know for creatives that can be hard.
Yes.
It's hard for me still. But yeah, thinking of yourself as a business as well is very, very important. Another thing I wanted to touch on was, people that unfortunately are out there that may try to like undermine your work or undervalue your work. Just knowing when to stand up for yourself, because you are your own person. And you need to protect your work. You need to value it, right?
100%.
And you are a business as well. So just knowing when to stand up for yourself is something that I've really learned the last few years as well.
That's huge. No, I mean, I couldn't have said it better. You literally are your own cheerleader at the end of the day. And I think the other thing off of that too is that, like you said, your work is literally, at the end of the day, it's like your child. You have to carry it with like almost like this like fragile state. And like if anyone tries to come near it, obviously you're going to be very protective of it. But it is true, I think, when you venture out from school, there's so much that they are able to teach you. And I think it's so wonderful that it's creative, because I do feel that way sometimes too with my own school experience, where I was able to learn so much on the creative side of things. But then I'm like thinking of marketing a little bit more and thinking a little bit more of like just like the logistical business side of things. And I'm like, holy crap, there is so much to know. There's so much to learn. And why didn't we talk about this? And if we talked about it, did I black out? Like, where was this unit? So that's a huge thing. And I think that's really, really important. But yes, absolutely never let anyone undermine your work. And yeah, stand up for yourself. That's a great point. Thank you so much for that. Well, clearly, as we can tell by this conversation, you've had a lot of different experiences working in photography. I think when you're working kind of whether like, you know, whether you're working with a company or you're working freelance or whatever it may be, contractor, anything really, there are so many different things that can come with that. And you pointed out some really great things in terms of business, but then there's also so many highlights that can come with that, just of getting to meet people and getting to work on creative endeavors that maybe you've dreamt of working with for a long time. So I really wanted to ask you, up until this point, what has felt like the biggest highlight of working in photography for you? And is there a specific moment you can recall where you just really felt like this is it and this is what I've wanted to do?
Yeah. So I think for sure for me, the last year graduating was the moment where I had like, this is it. Like, this is all my hard work for the last 4 years. And now I get to graduate with my portfolio of agriculture work, which I was so proud of. And then I also had my narrative book, which focused on farming and urban spaces and how they are taking over farming, which I was really proud of how the imagery worked there as well. The story I was able to tell through that, which was something I was really proud of as well.
That's amazing.
My thesis project on farming and off-figure fashion that I touched on was something else that I created in my last year as well. So I was really, really proud of that as well. I think my agriculture work for sure took over a lot in that year though, and that was ultimately my biggest goal.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that was for sure the moment where I was like, this is it. Like, I love what I've accomplished this year. Then I think after graduating, probably one of the highlights would be when I was featured in Photo Ed magazine with my documentary work, farming.
Woo! Round of applause here. No, that is so cool. And congratulations again. I know it's been a minute, but still congratulations, because that being published is so cool.
Yeah, so that was for sure a very nice moment too. I got like my little write-up about myself in there, and that made me feel good. They also chose one of my favorite photos, so I was very, very happy with that experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then I've also, you know, had lots of other little features on Instagram and social media by brands that I like dreamed of like recognizing and following my work. So that's definitely a highlight for me too. I think being able to meet like different people through social media, through photography, like my friends, my family who have supported me, clients, it's just all been amazing. Like, I couldn't have created the work without them. So I think that's a big highlight for me too. I did have the Lens Culture Critics' Choice competition gallery for one of my photos with the off-figure fashion and farming. So it was selected for the gallery. So that was kind of nice.
That's so cool.
That was more so recent as well.
That's so cool. So published, being exhibited, right? That's the word?
Yeah.
Yes. Being published, being exhibited, and also a huge thing that I'm gathering from what you just said, because I think from what you said, a big comfort and exciting thing for you out of being at Sheridan and being part of your program with photography was feeling like you had that creative community. But it sounds a lot like after graduating, it took a little bit of time maybe, but you've been able to kind of put together a new community in your work.
Yeah, it did. It took me a little bit of time to kind of find, like, to get myself out there to other people that weren't my little community.
Yeah.
And find those opportunities. But yeah, I did. I still am pushing through to do more. This is definitely not the end of my accomplishments that I want to do.
Absolutely not. It's just the start.
Just the start. Yes, for sure.
But that is so cool. And I mean, obviously, I think when you're working in a creative capacity of really any sort, a lot of the time what people have to do is self-represent, pretty much just represent themselves is what that means. And so obviously that's something that photographers have to do, you know, filmmakers have to do, writers have to do, any of that stuff. And I think that's huge, but it sounds like you're doing a really wonderful job with that. So
thank you.
Keep pushing.
Thank you. I'm going to try my best.
And I was going to say, actually right here, right now, before I forget, I'm going to put it in at the end, but if there's one place that everyone could go to find your work on Instagram, where would that be? Plug that in right now.
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Victoria Robinson Photo. You can also find me on Facebook.
Go.
Victoria Robinson Photography.
There we go. Hit her up, guys.
Yeah, give me a follow.
No, yeah, we've worked together before in the past. Obviously, I'm not just saying this because she's one of my best friends, but she was so amazing. She did a shoot, I think a couple falls ago, a couple years ago in the fall. She took photos of my sister, myself, and our dog, who is now no longer with us, but she's captured our bond that the three of us had, and still lives on so well. And there's some of the most beautiful photos that like we've ever had, especially including him. So
thank you. That's so
no,
sweet.
it's true. Please go ahead and check out her work, because she's just amazing with lifestyle, with agricultural. Obviously, she's still got some editorial in her too, I think. but yeah, go check out her work. So I have one more question for you.
Okay.
So is there something, and it could be absolutely anything, that you would like to try in your career, whether that's directly in photography or something that you could merge paths with photography?
So I think I've always loved like creative aspects and writing. So I definitely think I would love to pursue something in writing or design, like even combining all three with my photo work would be kind of interesting. I've thought of like, editorial magazines, or, maybe it is a photo book, or even a romance novel like we touched on.
Please do it. Oh my God.
I am a big lover of romance novels, and that's something that I would really love to write one day.
I mean, can I just say, I think you'd probably put together one of the greatest romance stories of our time, because I've seen her book collection. She's introduced me to some really wonderful writers and their work, and I feel like with your years of knowledge, you would just be able to create something so beautiful. So
thank you.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I always love to read and write and collect books. I have quite the collection. So yeah, I would love to pursue that. I think something else, this is further down the line, but I'd love to like give back in some way of being like a teacher or a mentor to other creatives in the field. I think that's something that's very important, and I'd just love to support other creatives and help them through aspects of starting in the creative field. But yeah,
I think that's so amazing, because I mean, granted, there are so many programs slowly but surely coming out now. I still think there's not enough of people kind of like guiding young creators or creatives along in their careers. But also there's like no age limit to that. I mean, someone could be beginning their career later on in life and could always use a mentor. So I think that's so cool, because we could use more mentors.
Yeah.
And I know someone would really love that, to have that guidance. And I'm sure for you as well, like I know, thinking about myself earlier on in my career, I would have loved to have had, someone particular for something else that I wanted to work on, like project wise. I was lucky enough to meet so many wonderful people and work with so many wonderful people. But obviously, like when you're kind of in high school or university, you're like, like who am I going to meet? Who's going to kind of like, how do I do this? Who can I talk to about this? How's this going to work? So I feel like having that as a goal is so cool, because it's answering a lot of things you must have thought about.
Yeah. Like I think going through the process of Sheridan made me kind of want to like give back that way too, and help someone else go through it, because a lot of them were like photographers and still are photographers. So just, helping people start their careers in the industry would be something that I would enjoy too.
That's honestly amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things ever, because it's one thing to kind of know that you want to have like a really wonderful and obviously fulfilling career in a creative aspect, but it's another thing to want to give back and help someone else kind of flourish in their own way. So thank you so much for that. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, this has been so cool. And you've shared some really, really wonderful insight with me today. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Please come back.
Yeah, for sure.
I love hanging out with Victoria. We hang out all the time.
We have the best hangouts.
I've referenced stories in the past on this show that I've been with Victoria. I've referenced stories that I've read in the past, and I'm going to bring it up again because of Victoria. So this is not the last that you guys will hear of her. So thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it. Actually, one final thing, I kind of just got into it, but we went over it a little bit before. But if there's like kind of a sum up of where people can find you or connect with you, you can drop any socials you want in here. And I'll also be putting them in the description of this episode, so you can go click on that.
Okay.
Do you want to share any socials or websites or anything you have?
Yeah, so it's at Victoria Robinson Photo on Instagram, Victoria Robinson Photography on Facebook, and then I do have a website, victoriarobinsonphoto.com.
There it is. Oh my God, I was like listing them off my fingers, and she was like on a roll. We were hyping each other up. That's awesome. So now you guys know where to go follow her. Yeah. So go do that. Yes. She is so talented. Also such a kind person and just great soul overall. So
thank
there's
you.
that. I'm saying that genuinely.
Very
Like,
sweet.
she's a really wonderful person. So go check her out. Go support her work. And thank you so much again for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
I actually need to have you come back. We should do an episode about a romance book.
Books.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
that
You know
would be
what?
Amazing.
Actually, before I wrap this up, we kind of started something like a year and a bit ago, I think, where we started to gift each other books that the both of us wanted to read together.
We did.
So maybe we can bring that to this, and we could talk about those books on here.
Yeah, we could.
So I'm hoping for that now.
Yeah, we should definitely do that.
That'd be so much fun. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got for you today. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being amazing and sharing so many great stories and great insight and advice. Yeah.
Thank you.
If you're still here, then holy, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And a big thank you to Victoria for coming on and sharing her wisdom with me. It was so great to get to learn more about her and just her career and her inspirations through this kind of a conversation. And I'm so glad that we got to do that. So thank you for listening. And thanks, Victoria, for coming on. If you want to talk about this episode, then go ahead and DM me on Instagram at the Trying Times Podcast. And of course, if you're interested in Victoria and her work, please check out her socials and her site, which are linked in the episode description as well. And that's all for today. We'll chat again soon, okay? Bye.